So we announced today to the board that we actually reached terms on 2 agreements with the group that we decided to negotiate with in earnest. And the agreements are a management agreement for the airport and a development agreement for both on-airport and off-airport. We wanted to present to the board today the significant terms in both those agreements for the board's consideration, because we'll come back once they decide that if they decide that we're ready to go forward and actually enter into contracts with those parties. The terms are significant in that they address all of the key pillars that we identified in our report back in April about how to really do a public-private partnership here at the Gary Airport. So we're very pleased.
Okay.
So let me start first with the development agreement because it's huge and huge for the region. We have a group, well, first of all, let me tell you about the group. So the group is AVCO, which runs airports across the country, and they know how to run FAA certified airports. So they're a great operator, will be a great operator for our airport. We also have Guggenheim Securities and Loop Capital, as well as Mike Mullen, who is the former chairman of Center Properties and who knows how to develop real estate. He's got a great track record. So the entire group has negotiated with us 2 agreements, or terms for 2 agreements. One is the management agreement for the airport, and the other is the development agreement. And as I started saying, the development agreement is huge because it commits that group to investing $100 million in the region over the next 40 years. And we want to see some action quickly. So we've also included a provision for a $25 million investment over the next 3 years, $10 million of which has to be made over the next 18 months. You're talking about, show me the money. This is showing us the money. This is the kind of level of investment in this region that has not been seen ever. And that's what really is so exciting about this project. The other agreement is the management agreement. So we have an agreement under which AVCO will run the airport. Again, it could go 40 years, but we have different points through the process where we could reconsider if, in fact, there's a reason to change. But there are incentives built in and profit sharing, both in terms of the management agreement and the development agreement, that would incent our counterparties to really do the best they can do and to really make the investments, get the development, and run the airport, not just profitably, but in a sustainable way that will last for a long time to come. Well, it's interesting. People, I think, really get confused when we say public-private partnership, and they think that means selling the airport. And this is not that at all. Public-private partnership can run the gamut from, keeping it as it is and getting someone in to run the property and selling out completely and just taking the payment. This is somewhere in between. What we're doing is getting a good firm, with a very reputable firm that has great experience, to come in and run the airport, and we're going to share the profit with them, but we're going to still own the airport. The City of Gary and the Airport Authority Board are going to maintain control over the airport. So AVCO can make recommendations, come up with a plan, but they have to report to the Airport Authority, which has ultimate responsibility for that airport. So this differentiates what we're doing from, for example, what Midway Airport was trying to do and ultimately was unable to do just a few months ago. As far as the development, this is a case of bringing private money in to invest in public assets generally, and then to have some public profit and public participation in private investment. So it really is a win-win, but not a complete sale of public assets. But we actually got together in February. We issued our report. So from February to April, we sat down, put our heads together, and evaluated the situation and came up with what we identified as the pillars of a P3 project. So we came up with what we really want this project to look like and the expected outcomes of a successful public-private partnership. And we issued a report, brought it to the Airport Authority Board back then. And since then, We've issued a request for expressions of interest and qualifications, got back 8 responses. Used those responses and used what we learned in that process to actually develop a much more detailed request for proposals. Issued that, got back 10 responses. Then we sat back, read through all those responses, did our work, got other advisors involved, including Michael Zonzius, who's the CFO for the Chicago Airport Authority, and other consultants as well that helped us review the information. Narrowed down the 10 to 2 groups that we really wanted to sit down with. Evaluated those 2 groups, met with them multiple times, and ultimately concluded that the group with which we've been negotiating now for 2 months is the right group. That best met the qualifications, laid out the most detailed and coherent, cogent plan for achieving the expected outcomes of a P3 that we identified back in April. So we've been busy. And then once we picked the group that we were going to negotiate with, then we actually asked a negotiating team consisting of our consultants, our lawyers, our financial consultants, plus members of the ad hoc committee as needed to actually negotiate the deal, which was very intense. Yes, we want to make sure the board has all the information that it needs and all the time that it needs to adequately consider that information before deciding whether we should go forward and before it decides whether to enter into the 2 contracts that we identified and described today. We're going to spend some time probably doing some drafting so that we're in a position, if and when the board says, yes, go ahead, to actually present written contracts to them. We're hopeful that they will do so. We really do believe that based on all of the groundwork we've done, all of the negotiating, all of the analysis, all of the research, all of the talking, all of the work that we've done that I just described, that the Airport Authority Board is going to agree with us that this is really a win-win for the airport, for the residents of Gary, for the region, and for all of us, and that we should move forward with these arrangements. Thank you.